Hey everybody, this is Michael Michelle coming in right at the very beginning of this episode just to let you know that I forgot to hit record on the visuals of this episode, so just vision us, both myself and Grace, as the glorious creatures that we are, as you enjoy this purely audio episode on YouTube. So sit back, relax, get yourself a nice hot cup of whatever kind of beverage you want to enjoy as we enjoy this week's episode of The Metalhead. I'll see you guys very soon. As we enter into the awards season, let's take a moment to reflect on the things that we have already accomplished and have already done. We are going to build upon those accomplishments and perhaps just relax, take that in as we bring that energy into this week's episode of The Metalhead. Welcome, everybody. This is a meditative podcast about metal music and music in general. I am one of your hosts, Michael Michelle.
I'm Grace, the other one. Hello.
Hello. Today's going to be a special episode. Pretty excited about it because we're going to be doing a little bit of our interpretations of the Grammys. The Grammys took place last weekend. It's usually the big, celebratory for music. And we were talking before we actually hit the record button that I don't think either of us... Have you actually sat down and watched a Grammys before?
I'm not sure I've watched any awards show, honestly.
Not even
kind
like
of
the Oscars or something like that?
I've seen clips, of like if it's a certain artist or a certain whatever, I'll see, oh yeah, okay, there's a little 90-second speech. I watched the clip of like the Will Smith thing, that was like that was pretty big when that came out, but never super engaged with it. It feels like a very American thing.
I guess so.
And it's, a lot of the artists as well, I think, selected a very, like, America-centric. So as, like, a Brit, we've got some of our own kind of, like, awards things that are a bit suited towards my music taste, maybe. I don't know. I think in terms of, like, popular music, I definitely engage more with, like, UK popular music versus, like, imported. So there are other award shows that more suited to that.
I feel that. Like I would watch the Junos, which are the Canadian version of the Grammys, mainly because I knew more of the artists that were covered on those. We've mentioned before, especially within the radio here, like a certain percentage of the content has to be Canadian, so it's like I'm almost guaranteed to know a handful of the artists every year on the Junos. So
I mean, we have the Brits aptly named.
I was gonna say, is it actually called the Brits? This is just showing my ignorance here.
Or the Brit Awards. The
Brits Awards. Very very good. I don't think I've ever.
Must have been going a while now, a few decades.
Yeah, and I've never seen the Grammys. I've always looked up later on what won, mainly because it's the same reason why I never watched MTV when I was in middle school or high school. The big music TV station. And in Canada we had Much Music, and then we had an offshoot of that, Much More Music. I still never really watched those because I wasn't a big fan of popular music. So. Yeah, and with that credential, we're going to be talking about the Grammys, mainly the winners, And I feel like most of these we could probably just kind of skim over because, for one,
I mean, there's repeats as well. There's people that won like
there,
multiple
yeah,
records.
and that's the thing about like the Grammys that I never understood. Like, you've got Best Pop Solo Performance, and then you have Best Pop Vocal Album, and Best Pop, like a bunch of these other things. Oh boy, the article that I found from CBS News only covers the pops. I don't even see the metal stuff because I want to talk about some of the metal stuff. I'm sure we'll find that. But yeah, like I know a few of these tracks from the Best Pop Solo Performance. You know, like I know Billie Eilish, and I'm glad that she was nominated because she got snubbed at the Golden Globes. Taylor Swift's Anti-Hero, which honestly is not my favorite track from Midnight's. I know that that's her big single from Midnight's, but it's not my favorite. I gotta admit, I really did enjoy Olivia Rodrigo's Vampire. You know, I think that song is a bop. I really liked her first album, and her second album's just as good. I've never heard the Doja Cat song of Paint the Town Red. I'm just going to show my ignorance on that one. But the winner was Miley Cyrus's Flowers, which I honestly can't say if I've even heard.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the issue. That we're in a bit of a niche. Like the music we listen to is in a bit of a niche, and it's not necessarily compatible with the side of the Grammys. I do have the full list. Every single Grammy that was awarded. There's 94.
Oh, so okay. I gotta find that list. Where's
if we'll get that
Is it
far.
the actual Grammys? Okay.
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat.
Beauties.
Because there's a lot. Best contemporary classical composition, best remix recording, best reggae album,
I'm
best
so much
tropical
more interested in
Latin
that.
album, best Americana, Latin jazz, spoken word poetry, R&B, R&B performance, traditional R&B performance, R&B song, progressive R&B, best R&B. So there's a lot of repeats, kind of, you know.
Yeah, well, I know that like Steven Wilson has won a handful of Grammys just with his 5.1 surround sounds. So yeah, and I think the one year, I think it was last year or the year before, that Dream Theater won a Grammy. So like some prog metal are on there.
Yeah, which was pretty surprising.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those, like, it's kind of a shame that that's what they got recognized for, because I think it was best metal performance for, what was it? It wasn't The Enemy Inside. Was it The Alien? It's the one from The View on the Top of the World.
Yeah, I think it was The Alien.
Yeah. And I'm like, it's fine, but like it's far and away from their best song. So,
no, interesting.
That's just me.
Yeah, there's also stuff in it. I mean, even seeing the rejects. I've just
You're just seeing the winners?
For best arrangement, I've just spotted Gordon Goodwin, which is fascinating because I feel like no one's ever heard of Gordon Goodwin. I'm a big Gordon Goodwin enjoyer, so it's like, oh no way, there he is. Very very rare to see his name pop up anywhere.
Yeah, because I was going to say I don't think I've heard of him. So
yeah, again, I mean that's a bucket list to see Gordon Goodwin's Big Fat Band play live. Wow, what I would do to make that happen. But yeah, I mean, there's just so many. There's so many awards, but I think we'll probably focus on the pop and the metal and see how far we get. So yeah, like you said, that the record of the year, it's totally out of my knowledge. You know, I'm kind of like, I mean, I know all the names, but yeah, I can't say I specifically listen to them, and that's kind of like the frustrating thing with this is that it's not. It's an award show sorted to like one genre of music. It feels like, even though they cover other genres, I feel like ultimately everything there is kind of under the umbrella of like popular music versus like the best prog metal album, the best prog rock album, the best
Yeah.
hard rock, the best blues album, best like, you know, that kind of like more the kind of rockier side of things, where it's more like pop solo, musica urbana, which I guess is the best like, Spanish speaking album, Spanish artist maybe. R&B, pop vocal, yeah. Best new artist is an interesting one as well. I saw kind of someone called Victoria Monet has won that.
Hmm.
How do you judge that?
Yeah.
Like, how surely to even get to the point of being known at the Grammys is like, you're not new at that point, right? Surely.
Yeah,
So
like it
that's-
should be. I don't know. Like looking at the other individuals that were nominated with Victoria Monet. I mean, I'm surprised that she beat out Ice Spice, because I've heard a lot about Ice Spice and I listened to that album and it's really friggin' good. But I've never heard of half of these people. I've heard of Coco Jones, as well as Gracie Abrams. But I mean, good for her. That's great. Yeah, I'm also having like a little bit of a deep dive. So do we want to at least have a look and talk about some of the top ones? Like I know record of the year, album of the year. And here's the thing though. What is actually the difference between record of the year and album of the year? Like I would love to hear, because like it says record of the year is awarded to the artist and to the producers, recording engineers and or mixers, mastering engineers, if other than the artist. And album of the year is awarded to the artist and to the featured artists, songwriters of new material, production, recording, mixers, mastering engineers, credits with 20% or more of playing time on the album. So
I think, I mean, my understanding of this record of the year can just be a single, as in it's like a single is a record, right? And then you have an album.
Oh, is it? I wouldn't necessarily consider that, but
I don't agree with that definition of record necessarily. But yeah, I think it's more that's closer to like song of the year. I say, well, actually, no. Hang on a minute.
Yeah.
Number 3 on the list, song of the year.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
What's going on there? That's interesting.
Like I can understand if it was like if say record of the year was like a studio release or something along those lines where it's a studio, but like album of the year could be a compilation, could be a live album, could be a remix or a remaster or a re-release or something along those lines. But again, we even have categories for those types of things. So I don't know. I know I'm very pedantic and I know I like splitting hairs with these kinds of very semantic things, but it does feel like this is a double up. I feel like they wanted to give the award to two things and they couldn't, so they just made 2 awards.
So album of the year is for the whole album. Record of the year is for a single track, which recognises the artist's performance and as well as overall contributions of the producer, recording engineers, and mixing engineers.
Okay, so at least that makes
sense.
Song
of the year is a songwriters award.
Huh.
Is that as far as this information goes? Oh, wow. Okay. So
I was going to say we've answered one question.
Yeah.
To find ourselves with
we
another.
have like another one. Yeah. So I think song of the year goes to the songwriter. So not just like the producer and the engineer and that kind of stuff. It actually goes to whoever put together the chords and the lyrics or whatever and combine that together.
It's all coming together.
So there's the distinction.
Which makes sense because the winner of Record of the Year was Flowers from Miley Cyrus. Good for her. I'm glad to see that she's getting some praise. And as far as I don't know. I don't have the finger to the pulse in terms of, the popular music. I thought Flowers could have been the album title, but then you see that Vampire and Antihero were both nominated, and both of them were singles off of those albums. So, okay, that makes sense. And yeah, then we have Album of the Year. And that was To Midnights, Miss Taylor Swift. And you know, you know me. I'm a Swiftie. I love Taylor Swift. I think she's great. But I don't know if Midnights was a Grammy-winning album. I'm just putting that out there. I
Yeah.
loved Midnights. I thought it was great, but I didn't necessarily felt like it was her best work. Not everything landed on it as much as her 1-2 punch of Folklore and Evermore. Especially when they have albums on here that I would actually consider to be Grammy-winning albums, like Lana Del Rey's "Did You Know That There's a Tunnel," and Olivia Rodrigo's "Guts." That was great. And I know you're a fan of Boy Genius with The Record.
Am I?
Are you? I thought you were. Who were you a fan of? I thought you were a fan of Boy Genius. No, you were a fan of something we'll talk about in a little bit.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm not familiar with Boy Genius. That's a mystery artist right there.
Sure. Well, there you go. Your new favorite artist that you didn't know you had.
Yeah, allegedly. Allegedly, yeah.
Yeah, and then Song of the Year was What Was I Made For? Which I think was a complete counter for the Golden Globes because it got snubbed over I'm Just Ken. Which was just, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that song was kind of incredible.
Oh, it's amazing.
It's very iconic in the film, and
absolutely
the back and forth between the two sort of styles in that song. I think there's some great storytelling in there from just like a film point of view. I think it was a very good dance number mid film, if you will.
Yeah, I love I'm Just Ken. It's a bop, but I don't think it's a award-winning song. I think it's a visual and audio, accumulation of Ken's journey. But in the same way, I think What Was I Made For is really the essence of Barbie's. I think that was her struggle throughout the whole film. That was her big thing. So yeah, and I mean, it went up against some pretty heavy competition, like Antihero, we already mentioned, Flowers, Vampire. I'm not familiar with this Kill Bill track from Bob Bissell, but A&W from Jack Antonoff and Lana Del Rey.
Yeah, I was curious about that. I was like, I'm sure Kill Bill came out like 30 years ago.
I know, right? I remember when it came out in high school, and I'm like, there was a song from Kill Bill? I mean, it has a banging soundtrack. So.
Yeah, absolute mystery, that one. Because I was like, oh, did they do like a remaster of the film and like it's regaining popularity? And I was like, no, that doesn't really make sense because it's like.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's a whole mystery.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's lots of other stuff there. Song of the Year, Songwriters of the Year.
Yeah, we already have
a lot more
Best New Artist.
Pop awards.
Mm-hmm.
If you go down, you're seeing stuff like Miley Cyrus, Phoebe Bridgers winning Best Pop Duo. Oh, well, sorry, SZA featuring Phoebe Bridgers.
Oh.
But then it's more of the same Miley Cyrus, Taylor Swift kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although a new Kylie Minogue track, Padam Padam, was the best pop dance recording.
Hey, that album or that track slaps. I have that on my like best tracks of 2024. I listen to that thing over and over and over again. It is so friggin' good.
Huh. Well,
if you haven't heard it, it's real good. It gets my seal of approval.
I mean, I'm familiar with Kylie Minogue's earlier work, but yeah, I've not really been keeping up with her so much.
Yeah, I think Fuel 2, the rock, metal, and the alternative music, that's where
that's where there's actually something useful to say.
Yeah, that's where we got some meat and potatoes that we can talk about. And once again, your boy won for the best rock performance. Boy Genius is there.
Yeah.
With Not Strong Enough.
My favorite band.
Your favorite band. Well, I mean, they have to be good because they beat out both the Foo Fighters and Metallica.
Yeah, and Arctic Monkeys as well.
And Arctic Monkeys. So apparently that track is strong enough to beat out some of the big legends from the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I listened to... Wow, you know, I never went back to it, actually. When Arctic Monkeys released a single for their album that must have come out last year, I thought it was great. Really, really good single. Really strong, really interesting, very emotive. Never went back to the record. I did pick up some earlier albums of theirs to kind of... I was like, oh, okay, I'll warm into them, and then never went back. So that's maybe a kick in the bum to actually go and do that. But yeah, I mean, I love the new Metallica album. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of people that are like, oh yeah, well, it's just Metallica, isn't it? Well, yeah, but
it's still
it's
Metallica.
It's Metallica. They are good.
Yeah, I did see a somebody saying, oh well, of course, because they won for best metal performance with 72 Seasons, and I believe they also won for something else. No, it looks like that was it. And they're like, yeah, of course, you know, Metallica shows up and of course they win, but they also didn't win for the best rock album that they were nominated for. They didn't win in, as we just said, the best rock performance. So like, yeah, they may have picked up one, but it looks like they were nominated like 2 or 3 times. So they're not just giving out the awards. But I also think that, you know, the Grammys still probably feels really bad after giving the very first metal performance award to Jethro Tull over Metallica. You know, way back in the 80s.
Yeah, I've heard about this. Yeah, I'm like, it's a bit interesting. Not really sure how. But yeah, I've seen people saying this is like a redemption for Metallica. You know, they've like come back around and. Oh, look, they're looking after them now. They're making up for their mistakes. I'm like, hey, don't hate on Jethro Tull.
Yeah, no. I mean, what was it? Was it Beast and Broadsword or Crest of a Knave that won for that? And I mean, both of those slap. Both of those are great, like late 80s Jethro Tull albums. You know, we're not talking about Under Wraps. We're not talking about some of their albums that maybe not are great. But, you know, we're talking about cream of the crop from the late 80s.
Yeah, but there's obviously bands that missed out, so there's nominations for metal performance from Disturbed, Ghost, Slipknot, and Spirit Box. So definitely a mix there. I think I've seen Spirit Box being a bit salty about it, being like, hey, good for those Metallica guys, but like, what about an actual vaguely new band? It's like... Yeah. I think there is something interesting to be said about a band like getting big, like when the members are in their 20s and then they're big for like 40 years. It's like, are they supposed to just win every award for 40 years and like no one gets a look in? Yeah. You know, you'd think there'd be a cap, you know, you can win once and then it goes over to newer bands. I think that would make things a bit more interesting because it's like, how many Grammys do you need?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree to that because like, look, if I were given a choice between Bring Me Back to Eden from Spirit Box or 72 Seasons from Metallica, I'm going to choose Metallica. Like, I personally, I just preferred that album more. But if I were to award one album over another, I would have given it to Spirit Box because the amount of acclaim that they received last year, the amount of press, and just what they're doing with music, in my mind, is so much more interesting that I feel like they were the ones that really should have received the award over Metallica, which, even though it was still a great album and I loved it a lot more than, you know, Bring Me Back to Eden, or Take Me Back to Eden, whatever it was called, I still think, like, that Spirit Box album deserved the award over Metallica. That's just my own 2 cents. Even though, again, I would prefer to listen to, and I have the Metallica album and I don't have the Spirit Box album. I think I'm confusing. No, am I confusing? I'm confusing Spirit Box with Sleep Token, aren't I?
Oh, are you?
I think I might be. I'm just catching myself now. I'm like, wait a minute, that's not Spirit Box. That's Sleep Token.
Oh no!
Disregard that whole thing. Spirit Box is still great. You see, Metallica deserved that one.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it is kind of surprising not to see Sleep Token up on here. But then,
So yeah, Sleep Token completely got snubbed, and Sleep Token's album was like one of the biggest talked about albums in the,
yeah,
you know,
that's kind
in
of.
this whole thing.
I didn't even like consider that. I feel like the Sleep Token record got talked more about the Ghost record did, or like
Oh,
Disturbed's 19th album,
yeah,
right?
and like the Ghost album was just like an EP of covers. It wasn't even like a full on album, and it was fine. I really liked what they did with the Genesis track, and the Iron Maiden
Oh yeah,
track was
yeah,
fun. But I mean, it was. I wouldn't necessarily consider it award winning.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. I mean,
You know?
it'll be interesting to see where Sleep Token goes. I mean, they've just
Yeah.
announced another tour. I think around Europe,
Mhm.
just a handful of dates, but they've doubled their venue capacity again after tripling it or whatever. You know, they're playing arenas now to the span of like 20,000 people. You know, they're trying to flog tickets for, which is, I mean, I say good luck to them. I don't think they need it.
Yeah.
So
I don't think they
I
need.
wouldn't be surprised if they appear up on these lists in the next couple of years with, you know, I'm presuming they're not going to release an album this year, but
Yeah.
yeah, I imagine we'll see more from them in the near future.
Yeah.
Just like we'll see more rock songs, because there's a few
We
best rock
will.
songs here. The sort of, not red herring, the odd one out, Olivia Rodrigo is on the list, which I'm like,
What?
Really?
I mean, I would also, if I'm being perfectly honest, I would also say another odd one out is "Angry" from Rolling Stones.
I mean, Rolling Stones were a rock band, so at the very least, like,
I will agree that they are rock. They are a rock band, but I also think like, I mean, that album was better than I expected. But I'm also not a big fan of Rolling Stones, if I'm being honest. Just
yeah,
not really for me. And I think this was more of like a, hey guys, don't worry, you're still relevant. You're still relevant. It's like, it's okay. They've already had what, like 5 farewell tours at this point. So like,
yeah. No, I know what you mean.
anyway, like seeing Queens of the Stone Age with their Emotional Sickness and Foo Fighters. I mean, those are the bands, much like what you were saying, where it's like they're starting to get to that point in their career where it's like, do they really need more awards? Like,
Yeah, and
again,
what is this like? They're just getting patted on the back for doing the same thing. Like, it's like, okay, good for you guys. And I get it. If you've never, if they've not won a Grammy before, or, you know, whatever, then it's like fine. But they,
yeah, it's like
they
the
play,
Lifetime
they play
Achievement Awards, right?
stadiums. Yeah, it's like who
Yeah.
is this for? But then I guess equally, would people care about the Grammys as much if it wasn't Taylor Swift there every year,
Yeah.
and it wasn't, you know, James Hetfield was a Mick Jagger sat on a table arguing or whatever it is, right? If that's not what's happening, then why would people even care? Would people even watch it in the first place? Would the whole thing lose its notoriety? So there's an element, there's like an entertainment factor as well with all of this. That's like, would there still be an appeal to the show in the first place?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And luckily, when we're talking about the best rock album, well, I guess we should let everybody know that the Boy Genius, your boy, won for Not Strong Enough for the best rock song. But the best rock album, it was pretty stacked. We had the new Foo Fighters, new Metallica, new Queens of the Stone Age, the new Greta Van Fleet. It was my least favorite of theirs so far. So I'm kind of, wondering why that one was nominated when there was so many other really good rock albums that came out this past year. But the real winner is the one that was, deserving of it. And I would even say that at least they got this one right with Paramore's This Is Why.
Yeah, I love that album. I mean, I loved After Laughter, which was, I think that was 2017 now. It was a little while ago.
Yeah.
But This Is Why was, so good. I spun it a lot. Out of all of like the real mainstream records, it was that and Metallica, I think, that really broke through.
Yeah.
Broke through the net for me. And I love that record. And props to Paramore, they didn't just win Best Rock Album. Best alternative music performance as well for the same album. This Is Why. So absolutely just killing it. And what a way to go out as well, because they're on their final, I think that was their final record with their record label, where they'd been in a contract since they were all like 14 or 13 or something. And they were contracted to write 6 albums. So that was like the last one. So they're like free. And they like deleted their socials and there's a whole thing going on. No one really knows what's happening. But what a way to go out. What a, hey, look at this. We finished on a Grammy. I mean, I'm assuming they're going to keep going.
I would hope
it's
so.
like, hey, we finished this period of our careers with a Grammy. Now time to move on to being independent or whatever they want to do next.
And it's interesting to see the like who was nominated with them. You had Lana Del Rey in this one, Boy Genius, Arctic Monkeys. I'm so glad to see Always in here because they've been a little bit of a sleeper, like dream pop band from Toronto that I love. All 3 of their records are very, very solid. So I'm glad to see that they're getting at least recognized a little bit. But what's interesting is I think for the best rock album, Paramore is like if not the first, then the second to be awarded to like a woman fronted band.
I think it's the first, yeah.
I think it's the first because somebody was like, yeah, Garbage didn't win, No Doubt didn't win. What are
just no one won.
Yeah, like they all got snubbed, and I'm even thinking of like Blondie from the '80s, or Hit Me With Your Best Shot. Who does that one? It's right on the tip of my tongue. Thank you, Pat Benatar. Yeah. Like all these really powerful, not even Heart from like the '70s one. So good for Paramore for cracking that glass ceiling. It took
time.
way too long, but good for them.
Yeah. And then, there's also the end of the sort of rocky category was Best Alternative Music Album, which was won by Boy Genius.
Yeah. Again, beat out Lana Del Rey, Arctic Monkeys, Gorillaz, PJ Harvey.
I
really
mean,
gotta check
it's
out
one of
that
those things.
Boy
It's like,
Genius.
dude, have I got to check this out? Is it that good? Maybe. I don't know if it will be for me.
We're gonna find out. That seems to be it. Then we go into the spoken word and R&B, which I wouldn't have anything to say.
Totally outside of my wheelhouse.
Yeah, I know a little bit in Field 4 of jazz, traditional pop, contemporary and instrumental, and musical theater. I have a little bit more of experience in that one.
I have a bit
enjoy
of jazz knowledge, but I've been listening to so much like historical, quote unquote, jazz and soul and that kind of stuff. Not being like, oh, what's like the hip jazz of like 2023. Like that wasn't a thing I was thinking last year. I was like, oh, I need to like expand my knowledge of like 1950s like American New York jazz. Like let's pick up these like eclectic Miles Davis records. It's like that's where my brain's at with it. So it's a totally different thing. Although I actually saying that, it is a shame to see Chris Brown being nominated for stuff. But there you go. People for whatever reason still respect him.
Category 35 is Best Traditional Pop Vocal Album. Like, what is that doing here when you have artists like Bruce Springsteen and Pentatonics going up against LaFay, Ricky Lee Jones, and Liz Calloway? Like,
and don't forget various artists.
Oh, I can't forget about various artists.
That is strange. I didn't know Pentatonics was still going. That's like almost like a YouTube throwback to like 2011 or something when they did their covers. So I wasn't even familiar that they were this big and people still went for it.
I have their Christmas album, but that's about it. I didn't realize that there were anything else besides like the YouTube page that they like doing.
Yeah. Well, saying that, they do kind of have over 20 million subscribers.
Oh, okay.
And apparently 3-time Grammy award winners. So they're going for it. Yeah. Wow. That's a. I guess it makes sense, but I'm just kind of totally off of my radar. It's like, oh yeah, those guys from like 10 years ago. It's like, no, it's still going.
At least with the category 37, I have a little bit more to say because I am a musical theater nerd. Last year, I got out to 3 shows.
Oh yeah.
When I was living in Toronto, it was like 10. Um, but, it was interesting to see what was nominated. Kimberly Akimbo, Parade, Shucked, Some Like It Hot, and Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street. Um, it's always interesting because whenever you see a lot of these revival casts, like Sweeney Todd is on its like 5th or 6th revival cast recording, and good for Josh Groban for going in and filling in the Demon Barber of Fleet Street's shoes. But the winner, I think rightfully so, was Some Like It Hot because it was so good, loved it. I mean, I love the original movie, and I like how they updated this one, and the music slaps, so glad to see that that's on there. I did wish that Kimberly Akimbo, though, had a little bit of, a little bit more love, but I am at least glad to see that she is, that show got some love within the nominations.
Yeah. I mean, in the going down into the country zone, we did speak about Dolly Parton earlier on the show, and I was just thinking, whatever happened to that record? I don't.
Yeah, because that really should have been up in the rock because it was literally called Rockstar. So I don't know why that's
one nomination for best country solo performance, which feels like a bit of a miss show. But again, Dolly's a country artist. Yes, she did the heavier stuff with this record, but it's like it's kind of a covers album. Like it wasn't, or at least the setting of it. I haven't listened to it outside of the singles.
Yeah, it's good. I enjoyed it. I picked it up on vinyl. But yeah, I wouldn't necessarily clump it in here. But that's sometimes how it is. I am glad to see that for best folk album, Joni Mitchell won for Joni Mitchell Live at Newport.
Lots of people were very excited about that one. I saw, I feel like I saw photos of Jacob Collier with Joni Mitchell as well doing some, because she did a performance, maybe live, was my understanding from social media.
I feel that's right.
Yeah, with a bunch of people. So I mean, yeah, good for her. Yep.
Good for her.
Bit of an icon.
Oh, absolute not icon. Then I think like field 6 and 7, I don't have really anything to talk about. That's the gospel and contemporary Christian music. Once again, Neil Morse has been snubbed from the Christian music.
And how dare they?
And how dare they?
Our boy Neil.
1 year. And then field 7 was Latin, global, reggae, and new age, ambient, or chant. I do not like the fact that all these tracks, like all these are clumped in together.
Yeah, that feels like a wide spectrum.
Like, I get it, but on the other hand,
like
come
ambient
on, guys.
versus reggae is like not comparable in any way. In my
it
brain.
really isn't, and I can understand why new age and ambient are get together, right? But like the rest are so different.
I mean, if you go into the categories, they're sort of split out, but where there would be like 5 different categories, or sorry, 5 different awards for almost the same thing in the pop, best pop song, best pop album, best song written pop album. It's like, here's the best reggae album. Oh, so not the best reggae song or the best this or the best... No,
it's just...
Here's the best album. Oh, okay. I see. So they do think that it's more split out by specific genre. Yeah. I mean, the next section, children's comedy, audiobooks, visual media, music, and film. I mean, that's best comedy, like best audio book?
Yeah. Really? Yeah, so like this year, one of my things that I'm trying to do is read more audiobooks. So I might have a little bit more to say, but I think that this is more on, again, are they judging it based on what the person is, like the book itself, or are they basing it off of their performance? Because unlike all the other ones where there's a little bit of like a, for like the best comedy album, 4 albums containing greater than 70% playing time of new recordings, it's just, yeah, best audiobook narration and storytelling recording.
Yeah.
And I'm
Are they great voice actors? Maybe.
yeah. I mean, Meryl Streep was nominated for Big Tree. So, and then Michelle Obama was the one that won, rightfully so, for The Light We Carry. I just looked up at the best comedy album, and I know that this is supposed to be like stand-up comedy rather than like a Weird Al, a Tenacious D, or Axis of Awesome.
Yeah, like, yeah.
Yeah, it's like spoken word, like way back in the day, my dad had a bunch of like George Carlin albums. And just seeing who won hurts my soul. That just, I want to go into a corner and hide. Is that possible?
Hey, you can leave the podcast at any time. You can get off. You can get off Mr. Bones' wild ride.
Oh my gosh! I mean, I'm not even going to identify this. I'm not even going to give them the satisfaction of it. But to beat out Trevor Noah, Wanda Sykes, and Sarah Silverman, who all of them great comedians, fresh material every time. Let's move on. Let's move on.
Yeah, there's the stuff for soundtracks as well. So as we mentioned earlier, Barbie the album is in. They won.
Great. I am sad to see that my boy Weird Al did not win for his.
Yeah, which is fascinating because that's literally like a musician's biopic. So you'd think that would have a good chance.
Yeah.
But hey-ho, there you go.
But hey, when you're dealing with the Barbie movie, that's fine. And then Oppenheimer won for the best score soundtrack for visual media.
So we got the Barbenheimer right in there.
Yeah, you do.
Both sides of the same coin. Yeah.
I mean, the nominations that they have for this year though is just really weird. Obviously, you got Barbie, you got Black Panther, you got The Fabelmans, and you got Indiana Jones. But like, my favorite soundtrack from last year was for Spider-Man, Into the Spider-Verse.
Oh yeah.
Or was it Across the Spider-Verse? The sound design, it was like visual storytelling, but through the audio. Like each character had their own theme. Each character, as they were, progressing through the story, had interchanging themes at that point. It was great. Like the final track off of the soundtrack, like the score, is a conglomeration of everybody's score and everybody's theme. And I'm just kind of saddened that, it's not even recognized.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But there you
go. We've got a video game soundtrack that Star Wars Jedi Survivor won. Good for them.
Yeah. I mean, I'm so out of that world, but I feel like that's not the game that strikes me. Like the one I know, like everyone's talking about, is Baldur's Gate, right? That's
and
if people are talking about video games in 2023, it was Baldur's Gate, it was the new Pokemon, and it was the new Zelda. Those are like the three that like. Those are the ones I was hearing about.
That new Zelda with that sax, that meaty sax. Ugh.
I'm still not got around to getting it. I have no time. I have finally finished the Pokemon game.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Like,
that's good.
Over a year on, finally got to the end of the story. There's still like the after bit, but
yeah, there's the DLC stuff. That's pretty good. But yeah, the fact that Zelda Tears of the Kingdom did not get nominated is just why aren't people
Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 did.
Oh boy.
Didn't Modern Warfare 2 come out like several years ago? Am I going crazy? Like, I'm sure because we had Modern Warfare 3.
Yeah,
right?
I don't know. I don't really play those types of shooters. Like if I'm going to play a shooter game, I'm playing Doom or Wolfenstein or something like that. I'm not a big fan of the Call of Duty. So I'm so detached from that world that I don't even know. Because I know that there's like Call of Duty 3, but then there's like several of these spin-offs like, Modern Warfare or Deep in the Trenches or whatever, What I will say though,
Interesting. Right, no,
is
there
I'm
is a new there was a new so there's like 5 Modern Warfare games, but there's
oh yeah,
there's like Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, then there's Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, which is 2009. And then there's Call of Duty Modern Warfare in 2019. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 in 2022. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 came out last year as well.
ridiculous.
Who's buying all of these? What's going on?
A certain type of gamer, who I've got love in my heart for. They're great, love them, just not for me.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I
not
used
for
to
me.
like FPSs back in the day, but this is a long ways back.
Yeah,
Back when I had an actual gaming computer, right?
that's I just have my Switch. That's all I got.
Yeah, that's all I got as well.
The one I will say, moving away from the Modern Warfare, that I'm so glad was nominated, and I know they didn't have too much of a chance, but it was Stray Gods, the role-playing musical.
Uh-huh.
You had Montaigne, who's a brilliant artist, and they're putting out amazing music, along with Tripod and Austin Winery. This game is ridiculous because it's an RPG, it's a role-playing game, but it's all a musical. It's a musical. So like as you're progressing through the story, you literally are conducting your own musical, and it's so good. So I'm glad that they decided to at least honor it with a nomination. I honestly think they should have gotten the Grammy over the Star Wars Jedi Survivor. But if I'm also being perfectly honest, it was Zelda Tears of the Kingdom all the way home. Again, that meaty sax, man. That just meaty sax.
Yeah. There's other categories as well. Looking further down, we got package notes and historical. I mean, that's kind of what album had the best unboxing. I mean, fine, I guess.
I do want to just before
notes.
I do want to bring us back just to the best song written for visual media.
Oh yeah.
All of the songs but one were from the Barbie movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
wow.
You had "Lift Me Up" from the Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, but then "Barbie World" from the Barbie album, "Dance the Night" from the Barbie album, "I'm Just Ken" from the Barbie album, and then the winner, again rightfully so, "What I Was Made For" from the Barbie album.
I really liked the Dua Lipa song "Dance the Night."
So good.
That's ended up
So
like
good.
sort of sticking in my brain a little bit more than I thought it would.
Yeah.
Very catchy. I mean, Dua Lipa's got a certain magic about her compositions that really click into my head. I'm like, oh yeah, okay. It really just sticks. So yeah, that was cool to see. Shame it didn't win anything.
Yeah,
and Billie Eilish got like another Grammy,
another award. But yeah, like I'm glad that the the nominees were at least really well done. And yeah, the best music video, I'm Only Sleeping from the Beatles. Sure. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's a bit of a random one. I remember watching a music video from Lil Nas X, which was like just incredibly like over the top, and I was like, wow, that must have, taken a lot of thought to put together just from like a video director's point of view. So I'm kind of surprised to not see. I can't remember what song it was.
I can't help you with that one. I'm sorry.
I just remember seeing like some of the visuals and I was like, wow, that's incredible. Oh, okay, no, it only came out a couple of weeks ago.
Okay. So it wouldn't. I don't.
So
that'll
be why. That'll be why.
Yeah, that would be why. We'll see it again this time next year.
I hope so. Or we'll see something better.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing with like the best music video. I think a lot of this is going to be diluted because of how many artists now are using AI in their music video, and I think that makes it illegible. Because they don't own it at that point. So I think we'll see. I think we'll see a little bit of a dilution from this category, and even like I would say, I'm Only Sleeping under that criteria. I don't even know if that was illegible, because I keep saying illegible, and that means you can't.
Eligible, yeah.
Eligible, thank you. I can speak. Because like wasn't George Harrison and John Lennon weren't they like AI generated, or at least,
I mean, they're dead.
like I'm
Like,
pretty sure that they use some AI processing to help with all that. Anyway, a little bit besides the point. Um,
oh
yeah,
no,
let's.
okay, no,
Although,
okay. So I'm just reading the description of it. She painted every frame individually in oil paint. So it's a
yes.
stop motion video of like hundreds of oil paintings,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they
which
did something similar
is kind of
with
fascinating.
yeah, there
That's
was
high effort. Like,
yeah. Oh yeah, that's like some Peter Gabriel stuff. Like that's something Peter Gabriel would have done back in the 80s. Um yeah, and wasn't there a film that came out like in 2017 or something, like My Life with Vincent, that was all oil paintings for each frame as well?
ooh, I'm not sure. That's outside of my knowledge basin, I would
Yeah.
say.
Yeah. Um yeah, anyway, I think we can like really quickly, because I know that we've been here for quite a bit. The packaging, notes, and historicals. I'm sure
It's paper in it.
um, that's some paper. Yeah. Um, production, engineering, composition, and arrangement. I wish I had more to talk about within this, but
Yeah, it's
and I
totally outside of my remit. I mean, it's the same with packaging, honestly. I made a joke, but
yeah
it's like I don't know what's good packaging. I mean, I
yeah
do buy physicals, but I don't typically go for box sets these days. Um,
Yeah, and unfortunately, like the American music and the Western music, I always find is just very lacking in terms of the packaging. Where if you look at like the J-pop and the K-pop and a lot of the stuff from like
oh yeah,
that
yeah, yeah,
industry,
yeah.
that is some brilliant packaging.
There's
Like
some
if we're talking
incredible
about,
things that go on out there.
that's some incredible packaging. Um, yeah. Um, and then you
Yeah,
got the best like remixing, best immersion album. I mean, I'm glad that Wet Leg won for the best remixed album, even though I think that album came out 2 years ago, so it was like a remix of an album that came out earlier.
yeah, and then it's
And
classical.
classical, I mean, I have more to say about classical, but not a
Again, my
lot.
knowledge is the classical era, right? Not so much modern classical. Well, I guess neoclassical
Yeah,
compositions, which is like a totally different ballpark. It's a new. I feel like it's unfair to lump it in with like classical music when it's just loosely orchestral. But
yeah. So,
there you
yeah,
go.
and it's weird because there's a double up because Field 11 is classical, and then Field 11 again is also classical
Oh, so
because you
they've
have
doubled up the headers, yeah.
doubled up the headers,
Orchestrals
classical
and
instrumentals.
then
So I wonder if it's like
so
neoclassical and then like old timey classical. Um,
yeah. I mean, looking at some of
yeah.
the composers' names, I mean, I'm seeing like Rachmaninoff and stuff in there, Beethoven, like arrangements, whereas the newer stuff does seem, also the second classical category, doesn't seem to mention any of the sort of big classics. I mean, I'm not familiar with this scene,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, it's yeah, and maybe that's the differentiation. I mean, hey, this is why the internet is our friend, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So, and that's the end of the list. That's all we got. So, yeah. Any final thoughts as we bring this episode to a close? Our little
I want to
Grammy.
see the proggies come back. I want to see a prog award show. I'd watch that. I'd love that.
I would too.
I know
Yeah, and
Prog magazine did it maybe I want to say for like at least 5 years in the mid 2010s,
yeah,
and then it's just kind of not come back. So it'd be nice to see
yeah, and
that again.
yeah, I know that the Prog Report does one, but it's always, we talked about that earlier. It's entertainment. It's fine.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
there for
yeah.
clicks. I don't necessarily take that too seriously. But yeah, maybe we'll start our own. Maybe we'll have one for 2024.
Maybe there's an
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I just realized I didn't click record on our Zoom, so this will be an audio only for our YouTubers. But don't worry, I'll put our icon on there, so at least you get it on the YouTubes. So for anybody that is listening to us on the podcatchers, you can listen to this on YouTube. Find us on YouTube. I believe the link is in the description of this video, or I guess in the description of this podcast. And yeah, you can find us on YouTube. And for anybody watching on YouTube, you can also check us out on podcast form. You can drop us a line if you want to connect with us. Our email address is themetalheadpod@gmail.com. And yeah, thanks to a lot of individuals. Thanks to Grace for A, being an amazing co-host, and B, being doing the writing of the music for this little endeavor.
Yeah, give me more compliments.
Unfortunately, that's where the credits.
That's where it ends. That's where it ends.
Yeah, I got to spread them out, right? I don't want to inflate the head too much.
No, God. No.
Yeah, and I want to thank Nicole Maris for designing our graphic, and I think that's all we got for this week. So Grace, why don't you bring us home with our typical catchphrase that we end all of our episodes on?
Oh yeah, because it's the same catchphrase every single time.
Every single time.
Everyone knows, because everyone always listens to the end. If you pick them up in the down, then put them in the pit, and pick the pit up, and put it back down again.